It's 2009 and this little film called Avatar, directed by James Cameron, just came out, and it brought a completely new style of 3D films. Gone were the days of red and blue pieces of cardboard. Instead, thick-rimmed plastic glasses were used, making the film almost as clear as a 2D movie. And it immersed you into the world more than ever before. And Avatar was met with incredible success. It was the highest grossing film of all time for nearly a decade and was even nominated for 9 Oscars, winning 3 of them. In 2009, it initially seemed like Avatar was the start of a filmmaking revolution. Gone were the days of shitty 3D movies. If movies ended up looking more like Avatar, maybe we actually wouldn't mind wearing these glasses for 2.5 hours. But a revolution wasn't exactly what we got. 2010 to 2015 was met with a massive onslaught of 3D movies, from your standard children's film like Cars 2 to even Jackass 3D. 3D films were everywhere, and many of them were exclusively being shown in that format. It felt like there was almost no getting away from it, until it suddenly stopped. In 2016, 51 3D movies were shown in theaters. Fast forward to 2019 and that number shrunk to just 35 movies. Not only that, but 3D box office numbers have fallen significantly since 2010 and are continuing to drop even more. And movies are never adorned with a 3D in their title like they used to. So what exactly happened to 3D movies? Well, before we get to that, we need to look back. This isn't the first time Hollywood has tried to get us to fall in love with 3D movies. In the early 1900s, when 2D movies were just starting to get popular, people were experimenting with 3D technology. Although it never took off because it was far too clunky to operate and not to mention too expensive for the average viewer. Fast forward to the 1950s and The House of Wax comes out in 3D. This movie was hugely successful, and because of that, Hollywood took notice. 3D movies were starting to go mainstream, and this lasted for about 5 years. Then audiences lost interest in the gimmick, so Hollywood stopped doing it. 3D tried to make another comeback in the 1980s, but it was quickly short-lived after a couple big box office failures. 3D was then relegated to specialized IMAX screens and other gimmicky movies. This was until 2009 when Avatar was finally released, sparking a resurgence for 3D films. So throughout history, no matter how many times audiences have expressed their disinterest in 3D movies, there's always one filmmaker who happens to do it right and can revitalize the entire format to spread across the entire industry. But although a movie like The House of Wax and Avatar are good and even revolutionary, are they really good enough to change the entire movie industry? Well, not exactly. It's a fact at this point that turning your movie into 3D doesn't make it any better, but turning your movie into 3D also means you can charge more per ticket. And we've seen this method happen in the last decade, where 90% of the movies that are available in 3D are done through post-processing. And at times, these post-processing 3D jobs have been an absolute mess. From Clash of the Titan to Avatar: The Last Airbender, these movies have had horrible post-processing that had no business being a 3D movie and should have probably just stayed as 2D. Regardless, studios made it 3D anyways in hopes of getting some extra money for every ticket. Film studios wouldn't care if they have intentions of making a movie 3D from the start or using a special camera. Why would they do it like that if they can make their movie the old-fashioned way for a lot cheaper, and then make your movie 3D during post-production? Now, I know that's oversimplifying how movies are made, but there's no denying that making your movie 3D during post is much cheaper than figuring it out while you're on set. And although it results in a much worse product, film studios can still charge more for tickets, regardless of how good the 3D is. But audiences saw right through this and stopped going to the majority of 3D movies, but mind you, this wasn't always the case. Some movies other than Avatar worked great as 3D films, sometimes even better than their 2D counterparts. Movies like Life of Pi, Gravity, and Hugo are all great examples of what a 3D movie can do. Sure, you can argue watching in 2D is more of a pure experience, but there's no denying that these movies worked well as 3D films and weren't trying to be a gimmick like many others. And the reason for this is that these movies had intentions to be 3D from the start, and some of them even use the same technology that James Cameron developed for Avatar. And audiences took note of this. Instead of getting angry at 3D movies and their extra price, they appreciated it and found it to be a worthwhile experience. But movies like this were rare at the time and are virtually non-existent today. So although we'll probably always see the latest summer blockbuster as a 3D option, it won't be the type of 3D film that was constructed from the start and will instead be done in post. And audiences will most likely continue to respond as they have by not paying for them. Because it's not that audiences aren't interested in 3D movies, I mean, just look at Avatar. It's that audiences aren't interested in bad 3D movies. But because of Hollywood's lack of care for the medium, it looks like 3D movies are on their way out yet again.